thing I'd like to do is ask you guys a couple of quick questions. And so the first question, and this is just for information so that we know. So if you get somebody new in today, or maybe you're switching floors and you're going down the floor, how do you currently decide what size brief someone should be in?
That's a good question. Well, after doing this for so long, almost 3 years, I can kind of just look at them and tell.
Eyeball.
So I grab grab the size that I think fits.
Okay.
But if it's too small or too big, then I'll just change it real quick.
Okay.
But then that's when they first get here. But it's usually the next day they already have the correct sizes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you just follow the size that's already on there. Right. So using my chart, which is a chart that uses height and weight to size people. I'm going to tell you my height and weight, and I want you to tell me what size.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we have to tell you our weight.
No. I would not. I'm open about mine. So I'm 6'2", and I weigh 240 pounds. So you guys both tell me what size I should be.
Extra large.
Extra large. That's correct. So let's make one up. 5'5", 150 pounds. That would be extra large. Large would be correct. So yeah. So that it's the chart that we use, and it's about 99% correct. There's going to be some people that might be just a little bit different because of the shape of their body, but this will at least give you a good start. We have a colored copy of these that will be at every storeroom, so you'll be able to actually see this, and it'll be matched up with the colors that you're using. Okay. Have you ever heard the phrase "bigger is better"?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that as it applies to briefs, do you think that a lot of people believe that a bigger brief is more absorbent?
I don't think so, because if it's a smaller person, if they wear a medium, you put a large or extra large, the urine or the bowel it'll mess up our lovely bed.
Yeah. So that's great. That's exactly right. And so that's one of the main reasons that we wanted to be here today, was to show you a little bit about sizing and make sure you have the tools that you need, and then also to kind of speak about the importance of the sizing, because the briefs simply don't work right if you don't have someone in the right size.
Right.
If that makes sense. So the colors of the briefs that you guys use are mediums are white, larges are blue, and then can you tell me what size is extra large? Yellow. That's exactly right. I call it beige, but it's basically yellow. So those are the three sizes. And then if you get into the bariatrics, they're either green or white, depending on how big they are. Okay, so I'm going to talk just for a second about the construction of the brief, because it's the construction of the brief that makes it so important that you have someone in the right size. The brief is made out of 4 components just in the core area right here. You can't really see them, but there's actually 4 things here. The first one is the facing, and that's the part that actually touches the body. It's just a thin layer, and it's called a wicking layer. Do you know what wicking is? Wicking is like the action of pulling the moisture away from the skin. So all it does is it like takes the moisture and it just sort of starts to spread it out. Okay. The interesting thing about this top layer, even though it doesn't absorb anything, is that if it's not touching the skin, it won't wick. It'll just sit there. So you want as much of this touching the skin as possible. So wherever you are putting a brief on someone, you want that facing directly touching the skin as flat and smooth as you possibly can. The second thing is this blue layer, which is called the transfer pad. The transfer pad, because most people go in one spot, the transfer pad actually spreads it out so that more of the brief can be used. So we don't put all of the other components, the absorbing stuff, all in one spot. We put it throughout the whole thing, so that way it will hold more. Okay. The third is what's called 100% virgin pulp, and it's this white stuff that looks like cotton. It absorbs really quickly, but what do you think would happen if you squeezed it? Splashes right back out. So you put the brief on someone and they roll over, it would just squeeze right out and go back on the skin, which is not good for the skin. So the fourth component is called super absorbent polymer. It's these little granules that are really absorbent, and what they do is they absorb the moisture and they lock it away, and so that's why the brief starts to get dry a few minutes after somebody voids. So that's the fourth component, and that's spread throughout this brief, and that's what allows it to be even more absorbent. The other thing that all of this does is it improves the pH that's directly against the skin. When urine comes out, it has a very high pH, and it's very caustic to the skin. It can actually start to break down the skin. By pulling all that stuff down and locking it away with the polymer, we end up with about a 5.5 pH balance, which is more skin friendly and less likely to break the skin down. So even if it's still moist, it's not caustic and it's not gonna break the skin down as quickly. Does that make sense so far? So that's why it's so important to be in the right size, because if you put too large of a brief, like you said, A, it'll leak, and B, it'll bunch up, and then wherever it's bunched up and it's not touching the skin, it won't wick away. All right, with me so far? All right, there's a couple of techniques that I want to show you real quick, just things that you guys already know, but I just want to review them with you just to make sure. The first one is, see these leg gathers? They're very soft. They usually won't rub the skin, but it's real important that these leg gathers be tight in at the groin area. If you don't get them tight in at the groin area, it can also create leaking. So what you want to do is you want to get it up in the groin area